Hi, this is Howells-Barby. I'm going to talk to you briefly about an effective process for keyword analysis that you can use across any of your SEO campaigns, whether you do that for your own personal websites or whether you are an agency or do any other SEO work for your clients. Keyword analysis is something that I see far too often is overlooked, and people often will just type in a couple of their keywords into Google keyword tool and go, right, okay, they look like they've got a good enough search volume, let's target them, and then wonder 6 months down the line why they're kind of running into problems and have to kind of revamp everything. So this is really about being able to have a process in place that you can target keywords where you find good opportunities, where you can compete and really analyze a bit more of the SERPs, so that you can find what kind of competition you're going to face, where you can compete and bring through the best traffic on a long-term basis. So what I'm going to show you is a process that I use, at Wow Internet every single time for all of our clients, and that involves firstly going through each of the pages of the website. So I'll take an example site here. We've got Phase 3 Consulting. They do consultant work across a variety of different HR systems. So the first thing that I always do before trying to type in kind of keywords that the client has said, okay, I want to rank for this, enter in the website into Google Keyword Tool. And then what that's going to do is Google's going to pull together a load of different keywords related to the content of that page that you can have a look and see what kind of monthly search results are for. So what you need to be always doing is always make sure that you're looking on exact match searches here on the left. Don't bother with looking at broad match searches to start with, because you're going to get all sorts of different variations of your phrase that might actually not be representational of what you're actually targeting. And then just have a look down here, sort it by local monthly searches. Make sure if you're targeting a specific area or country, for example, I'm targeting the UK, that you select the correct one. For many of the people watching this, it'll probably be the US, but you can do that across the board. And if you're targeting more on countries from all over the world, then you can pay more attention to the global monthly searches, but 9 times out of 10 you're going to be looking at these local searches. So what I'll start doing is, because I've been briefed with the client and I understand what the website is actually about, I can kind of have an understanding of what they offer. I know that they're a HR consultancy, so I'll just start ticking through. Obviously I've sorted this by local monthly searches, so grabbing a few different keywords, just selecting those through. You don't need to be too picky at this stage. We don't need to go, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to compete for this specific keyword at this level. What we're doing is just bringing in a load of different ones. So just for demonstration purposes, I'll take a few here. Northgate HR, the client specifically said to me, I want to rank for this specific keyword. So looking ones related there, adding a load of these. You'll see with the exact match stuff, it's all kind of related. Different variations of the phrase. So that's kind of the first stage I do. So I've got kind of maybe, yeah, that's about my limit. I'm not really looking for this client. I'm looking more on a short tail level. I don't want anything really less than about 36 searches on exact match per month. These aren't really particularly, actually, that's not really related either. So the first thing, I've already got 21 keywords that I can kind of narrow down to on the next stage. So now what I'll do is one major keyword that's high volume, HR consultancy. So what I'm going to do is go to Google, type in HR consultancy, and I'm going to just start pulling off a couple of these URLs. I'm going to pop this to here, and you can apply this to any industry where it works. So here it's not typically great. So what I don't want to have is stuff about jobs. So get rid of those, exclude that. I don't want anything to do with recruitment, interviews. This will help me just kind of narrow down some of the keywords here. Obviously, you're still going to get quite a lot of unrelated stuff. HR consultancy services, we missed out that initially. IT consultancy, HR consultancy firms, there's another one, HR consultancy companies. And that works as well. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll move down, ignore Wikipedia really. I want kind of more direct competition. Oops. So what you want to do is build up. I normally do about 6 or 7 different competitors to start building up quite a bit of keywords. Normally get to the level of around 50 different keywords or so. Then once you've went through all of your kind of competitors, in some industries you might have loads of different keywords that you're going to pick up. Some you might have a lot less, and this is where Ubersuggest. Now I don't know if you are all familiar with this. Ubersuggest.org, an amazing tool. I use this all the time in my keyword analysis. What Ubersuggest does is, so it takes a broad term. So for example, one of the main HR systems that these guys do consultancy work on is Midland HR. So what I can do is, because I'm not particularly familiar with their industry and the ins and outs of their products at the moment, so I just want to plug this in here, and what Ubersuggest will do is it will create loads of different variations of that term for me to look at. So for example, Midland HR jobs, Midland HR service desk. Obviously not all of these are related, but Midland HR and payroll solutions, lots of people within the SEO industry, I hear them talking about this all the time as a great tool to use, and if you haven't used it, use it. And this is the way that I do it. I simply just select all the keywords, just press get, and what I do is I just select them all to start with, as opposed to going through and individually selecting them all, and I'll just pile those in to Google Keyword Tool, and then sort it by local monthly searches. So then I can pick up a few. Midland HR, clearly that's a good one, and Midland HR iTrent. And then what I'll do is I'll go, okay, the next one. So iTrent is one of the other search terms. And this is the kind of thing that you can do when your client says to you, okay, I want you to specifically rank around this term, or here's one of my products, this is the kind of thing that I offer. Then you can use this to great effect. Some you'll find when you do this with Ubersuggest, you get a load of great results. Some are probably not going to be that relevant, but it's up to you to just filter through a load of these. And normally I do this for all of, if for example it's a product-based website. I've chosen a service-based website here because we could be here all day otherwise. So obviously this doesn't come back with the greatest stuff, but iTrent. So I'll even just go, okay, let's just remove all these. Right. Actual Ealing, a huge amount coming up here. Okay, and so what you can do is, let's go for an even broader term, HR consultants. What you'll find with Ubersuggest more than anything is that it will uncover loads of different variations of your keyword and help you find a load of long tail keywords that you otherwise probably wouldn't have stumbled upon. And it can just save you a shed load of time. So just doing things like this, easily filter things down by local searches. And there we go, HR Consultants UK, great. These guys aren't based or serve to these areas, so that's not so good. But this is where Ubersuggest is really particularly good for local businesses as well, so you can start finding the different areas where you can really rank for. So you get the picture. What you then want to do is, once you've kind of got all of the stuff in from Ubersuggest, and you've had maybe a list from your client or a list of the specific product keywords that you want to rank for, you can start inputting a few just in case you've missed a few off. So resource link is one. Obviously I'd spend a lot more time kind of really going and doing the ins and outs of this kind of stuff. So remove all. Just to make sure, obviously, when you're going inside and out of searches, that you're updating those filters. Resource link, something, and just want to find any variations. Again, I could put this term into Ubersuggest and find loads of different variations as well. But what I normally look for is, like I said, about anywhere between kind of 50 to 100 keywords that you can really now start taking to the next level of your keyword analysis. So you've got them all there. First thing to do, download my keyword ideas to a CSV. Right, so now that that's done, what we've now got is all of these keywords, along with the local monthly searches, the global searches, AdWords competition score. So obviously, if you guys are going to be doing a PPC campaign, same kind of process that you could use here to find loads of great keyword ideas, and that's where Ubersuggest is even more powerful. Because I'm just purely doing this for organic, I don't need this. Also, where we have obviously the exact match phrases, we've got these parentheses in place. A quick way of getting rid of all these, and you'll understand why in the next stage of the analysis why we need to do that. Just do a find and replace, nothing, and do the same for this, nothing. Okay, and then it's just stripped them away. It means when you plug in this kind of data into any other software, you're not having to go through and manually do it all. So the next stage now is we want to find out how competitive these keywords are. We know, okay, great, this is how many local monthly searches, but I mean, that doesn't still really tell us much in terms of where there could be a potential opportunity other than loads of people are searching for it. And this is a really important thing. This is where SEO Moz's Moz difficulty score is awesome. So I just create a new column here called Moz difficulty. And if you're a subscriber to SEO Moz's tools, which I'd really recommend for these type of tools more than anything, you have the keyword difficulty tool, which is when you log in, if you go into research tools, keyword analysis. So it's just there. This is kind of the bit that takes a little bit more time, because it's, as great as this tool is, it's not the quickest in the world. And you can only analyze 10 at a time. So what we'll do is, for the sake of this, we'll bring in 9 of these keywords. Obviously make sure you've got your target location put in place, and then Moz tools will start running their difficulty score analysis. And what the difficulty score looks at is, it looks at the competition of these keywords across page 1 of Google. Now, what you're going to see there is pretty much based on kind of page authority, domain authority, number of inbound links. So it scored out of 100, and what we're looking for is high search volume key search terms that have a relatively low difficulty score, which means that it shouldn't take us too long to get a place up on the first page of Google. If a SERP first page is kind of dominated by low page authority sites, web pages, sorry, and really high domain authority pages, then it's going to get kind of quite a low keyword difficulty score. And that's what you normally see when things have just got Yell listings and stuff like that. Okay, well, I'll start doing this. Sometimes you get unavailable showing up in this, and you normally just refresh and it comes up. 5, 59, 41, 42. Right, okay. You get the idea. Let's just, for argument's sake, start plugging in random figures. 1, 4, 50, 58. Okay, so it's a bit of manual work here, kind of doing batches of 10 at a time. And to be honest, on average, it takes me to do 50 keywords like that about 25 minutes, just because of the waiting in between and things like that. I've got a finished sheet that I can show you with the real kind of scores in there. But what you've now got is, okay, we've got all of our Moz difficulty scores. Let's just delete the rest of these so that we're just working with a smaller sample now. The first thing that you then want to do is filter down all of the keywords from the highest monthly search volumes down to the lowest. So just go to filter, sort largest to smallest. I mean, many of you will be familiar with a lot of the functions of Excel, and it's just a tool that I don't really know what to do without in SEO. So then you can get rid of the filter. Now the next stage is, okay, you can start pointing out and seeing, right, great, we can see some potential opportunities here. But what I do to just highlight things a little bit more is highlight this column of just the Moz difficulty scores, now that this is all sorted from high to low, and go to conditional formatting. Go down and create a new rule, and then do a 3-color scale with the lowest value set at green, highest value set at red. If you're not familiar with what conditional formatting is, what it will do is it will format a cell based on the rules that you've put in place. So what you could say is, if a cell is over the number of 40, then it comes up with a red background to it. If it's lower than 40, it comes up with green, so then you can quickly point out things. The color scale kind of works on like a gradient, and this is what you'll see. So what we can then quickly see is an instant look from a glance and say, right, great, 35, that's kind of green. If that's up near the top and we look at it kind of a green color, there's a definite potential opportunity to get a high volume search term with relatively low competition. Now, the next, what I'll do is I'll show you the finished sheet of some keyword analysis just for a bit of the home page that I've done. So here we go, have a kind of a full sheet of about 80 different keywords we've got here. We've plugged in all the correct Moz difficulty scores, and now you've got a nice gradient going all the way up to kind of really short-term keywords, short-tail keywords that we've got that we'll analyse at a later stage. But straight away we look at that and say, okay, it's got a Moz difficulty score of 42. That looks like a really good potential opportunity for a search term that brings in 1,600 searches every month. There we go. We'll highlight that in green because that's a good potential opportunity. This search term, even better, 1,600, 35 Moz difficulty score, Midland HR, all of these search terms, you get an instant look where you don't have to still be reaming through like reels of data. You can just quickly have a glance and say, right, this is where we're at, this is an opportunity. The lower down you go, the lower the difficulty score you want to be. And this can be awesome for when you're doing long tail keyword analysis to find some really awesome wins that you can kind of have. But now that you've got kind of all of these scores, don't just go on Moz difficulty score, that's it. Have a little look at the search. This is a great way to initially identify some opportunities. The next stage is, pull together, after you've kind of highlighted a couple of these, a bit more information on, say, page 1. So what we do is, I've created a few tabs for some of the potential opportunities that we've got, and if we go into HR consultancy, I've pulled off the top searches, the top results, sorry, for page 1, and you can do that within Moz's difficulty score. So if we go to full analysis for this keyword, what we get is obviously the difficulty score, a nice graph that shows kind of the deviation in page authority, domain authority, nice quick visual representation, but then also it shows us information all about page 1, the link, so that we can have a little look. And this can be another way where you can then go back into AdWords with a few of these URLs and find even more keywords, and that can be kind of phase 2 of your keyword analysis. And I would really say to be as thorough as you can, so doing it in multiple phases. Do this exact same process for each of your landing pages on your site. By the time that you've kind of done this for the first time, it will take you probably a good at least an hour or so to kind of do from one whole page. The quicker, the longer that you do it, the more that you do it, the quicker it gets. We now blast out kind of a keyword analysis for a page in the space of about half an hour, and we can look at kind of whole websites in kind of a day's work, and that's it. You've done all of your analysis. It's there for the whole of the campaign. You know that you've been really thorough and that you're going to get the best results possible. So going back to this kind of page here, you can just export this to a CSV, copy and paste in, have a little look. Oh, that's our old sheet. Have a little look in more depth into the search engine pages, because the Moz score is great for a quick overview, but you really need to have a bit of a deeper look. And what this can also be awesome for is, once you've started targeting, say, this keyword, we can then go in a little bit deeper into doing some link analysis. So we can start looking at the links going back to these sites, pulling off a load of kind of competitive research, and then add that into kind of lower down in this page, so possible link targets for this keyword. It keeps everything in one area. You've got this for all of your keywords. This can be a nice document to then present back to the client, to show them everything that you're doing. Keeps everything nice and transparent. And this should really be something that you refer back to across the whole campaign. And you can be updating the SERPs. One thing that we always do is every few months, so maybe 3 months, on some of the major pages, we'll update all of these difficulty scores, because they will change. The SERPs change and the difficulty of those SERPs change. And we can then often identify some other small long tail phrases that have suddenly become less competitive. We can maybe write a blog post around them and gain a bit of traction in terms of traffic. And that's particularly great if you're a blog owner. So you can get some good kind of wins there. And that's it really. This is kind of a process that you can follow using Google's free keyword tool, ubersuggest.org, which is a fantastic tool, and Moz's keyword analysis tool, which is the only paid for tool out of all of those. So that's kind of everything. I hope it's kind of been of help, and feel free to leave any comments, any thoughts in the comments of the video. Thanks guys.